Hey guys, welcome to the Breakout Podcast. My name is Maddie and I'm your host. And today we have Ronak. He's the owner of MedCoShare. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, could you just explain a little bit of the background of MedCoShare, how you came up with the idea?
Yeah. So in my other life, I was a commercial real estate broker and investor. So I was representing landlords and tenants, buyers and sellers of a variety of different kinds of investors as well. And I noticed this uptick of co-working spaces that were launching all over the country. Generally, most of the people are aware of co-working that's related to office space. So think of Industrious, Regis, WeWork. But there was co-working happening in different industries as well. So industrial was one that people typically don't think about. Even fashion. So when I started doing research to see if there was anything for medical co-working, I didn't see anything in Philadelphia. Throughout the country, I only saw two different operators, and this was back in 2016, 2017. There's a lot more now, but when I first started doing homework, there were very, very few, and it was very regional based as well. So the genesis of the idea was, I thought it was a great idea because I knew the problems that doctors were having, which is, if you're in an area like Philadelphia, like we are, real estate is not cheap. So either you got to go buy the real estate for your practice and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you have to do a long-term lease, which adds up over time as well, right? So even if you get a great deal and it's great the first year or so, eventually you're paying for those increases, and you might be paying for space that you don't even need because you took out more space than you originally thought was necessary. So there's a huge problem. I felt that there wasn't, a big disconnect between landlords and medical tenants. And so we're trying to fill that gap by basically giving turnkey medical space to doctors and then to other people in health and wellness as well.
That's so amazing. Do you get a lot of people from UPenn right now at all?
Not from UPenn. We have spoken with some other like universities. Typically, we call them members. Our members are private practices that are, five docs or fewer. So, and it can be a variety. We have an ENT group, dermatology groups. We have physical therapists, psychiatrists, a whole variety of people that, that support our ecosystem. So in our three different locations.
That's so cool.
Thank
I've
you.
never heard of an idea like that. So, did you have a medical background at all when you went into this? Or
No,
you
not
just
at
kind
all.
of saw this as an issue and you're like, I'm just going to go in and try and figure this out.
Yeah, so I went to, business school at Temple. I did my Temple MBA, and one of our other co-founders, we actually did the program together. It was a part-time program over 4 years. And he's a doctor by training. And I took the idea to him after I kind of drafted it in my mind and came up with a business plan. To just see if you could like poke holes in the business plan, see what other feedback he had, or if there was something that that was missing from a clinical perspective because I didn't have that expertise. So it's really important to get different viewpoints. And with any business, you should always start with what problem am I solving, right? So it shouldn't really be like a passion project. It should be something that you can be good at, but you're also solving a problem that exists. And then if you can even get a customer before you launch, even better. But my thinking was I knew that this problem existed. Let me just, talk to other people to make sure that I'm not missing anything in the way I was thinking.
That's interesting because so often I find businessmen that actually own companies, they say solve a problem that exists. But if you talk to someone that isn't as much into business, they'll say find something that you're passionate about. So I like how you
Yeah.
did say that.
Yeah. And I think like that line is doing a disservice to a lot of would-be entrepreneurs because there's so many issues with that statement. So like, you could be passionate about something but not be good at it, right? Or you could be passionate about something and not have and that specific thing doesn't make any money, right? So if you're doing it for a business perspective, it should be about, can you deliver and can you make money? It shouldn't be about like, well, does this make me happy? Eventually it might make you happy, but in the first couple of years, that's a lot more stressful than happiness. So you just got to be able to make sure you can, pay your bills and continue.
Maybe the why, or maybe that's why there's so many accounting firms, because I don't see how you could be an accountant and love your job. But
Well, I think
I guess if you're good at it.
yeah, if they're good at it and they like it, but it's hard to scale those type of firms too because your passion might not relate to the employees, right?
Usually.
So you could have a lot of passion for something, but then if you're trying to scale the business, you have to find people that are just as passionate as you are. Otherwise, it's going to be a really tough time.
Yeah, most definitely. Um, do you use any technology right now to leverage your company?
Yeah, so good question. So we actually built out our own in-house scheduling software. So when we launched uh, when we opened the space, you have turnkey medical rooms that can be rented part-time or full-time. So imagine a doctor that just wants to come in every Wednesday, for example, right? So now that room is going to be open the rest of the days of the week. And before it was more like, a lot of emails and texts. Like, okay, this room is available, that room is available. So what we did was we built out software where once you become a member of the MedCoShare ecosystem, you go in and you can see all of our locations. You can see the site map of the different rooms, and it'll be a specific color depending on whether it's booked or it's available. And then you go in and you book it, and you're allowed the number of sessions that you purchased. So you can't, so once you use up your sessions, um, you would have to kind of buy more to get more sessions. But essentially, that software didn't exist, and now we're adding even more services to the members. So we're becoming more and more tech oriented. Before it was just a real estate play, and now we're pivoting to something more than that.
And you said that you made that technology yourself.
Yeah, that in-house scheduling software, we did that in-house. Yeah, and we're building out a few other things. So eventually we want to make an app, and just our ultimate goal is to be a private practice accelerator, and the only way to do that is to have everything in-house. So not just the real estate aspect to it, but you want to be able to do billing, scheduling, marketing, staffing, work with different EHR systems. I mean, so yeah, there's a lot more that we learned that we needed as we grew. But everything that we do, every decision we make, it should be okay. What problem are we solving now?
So just constantly never stopping, just always being consistent, just always going to the next
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, constantly iterating. The ideas and the execution, and just constantly trying to make yourself better.
That's amazing. I really, really love that. So, how do you get in contact with these institutions and medical providers?
That's a great question. So marketing the first year was really tough. We did not really understand the right way of going about it, and so there was a lot of trial and error. Also, medical co-working were not search terms that people were using, right? So you couldn't go in and buy those keywords and increase your traffic because people just weren't looking at those terms at all. So we did we did a lot of organic marketing. Our referral system is great. So like once doctors come in, they'll start talking to their friends and colleagues, and we'll get more numbers that way. Um, but the organic aspect to it has been better than the paid marketing for us. And I think the reason why is because this is it's not just a like a product, it's a lifestyle, right? So if a doctor chooses to go in private practice and start their own thing, and if they're leaving the hospital, they're making a major lifestyle decision to, to get out of that. So because of that, right, you got to build a relationship. They have to trust you. You have to deliver a great product. The whole process of seeing patients when there's other doctors in the space and other types of patients as well, the whole process has to be seamless. So, you have to really create that um, environment that it really does help them and it also helps the patients.
That's really interesting that like there's no other ideas like this that have come out. So you literally have to do it all organically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was pretty challenging, especially since we opened 2020 and we
Oh
signed the
wow.
lease and yeah, we signed the lease in January and then the overall shut down in March. And so we were sitting empty. I mean, we had a couple of members, but pretty much we were empty for over a year.
Oh wow, that's very hard, but y'all made it through that. That's super impressive.
Thank you.
That's amazing though. Can you share some examples of successful partnerships that have benefited your company?
Yeah, so I think the partnership's just with the docs themselves, right? So we don't consider them just like a customer. It really is a partnership because their practice has to grow for them to want to stay with us and for them to want to refer our company to their friends and colleagues, right? So it has to work for them. It has to work for the patients. So it can't be it's a horrible experience for the patients because even though we're a B2B company, ultimately it's a B2B to C, right? And the consumer is the patient. They have to be getting better outcomes. They have to have better experiences. And that's what really leads to um, the business growing. And I feel like the partnership is with everyone involved, so it's not just us and the docs. But then we're also looking to do partnerships with outside vendors. So how can we help the docs with the other problems that they're having? So can we find them better EHR systems to use that are more, cost effective? Can we find them a good company that can help them with credentialing? So we partnered with outside vendors to kind of just help with every stage of running a private practice.
Okay. So as the CEO, have you had to learn new skills as you go along? Like, I'm sure you already knew sales being in real estate, but did you also have to learn coding at all or just any other things?
Not coding, but like the CEO role, right, is basically a chief everything officer. In the early days of a startup, you have to do everything. And oftentimes you're not good at everything, but you don't really have the money or the resources to outsource. So you have to start learning new things, new skills. Marketing was a big one. So, I did like a deep dive into different um, marketing strategies, whether it was like SEO, um, or just improving the website or reaching out to different publications to get press involved. So we can increase exposure that way. And so all those things were new to me. I did not do that before. And even now, we're constantly learning new things. So we have 3 locations. How do we scale to 30? And that's a whole different skill set that's needed, right? And then how do you scale on the real estate side, but also you scale on the services side at the same time? Um, so throughout this journey so far, which has been, about 4 years, um, every month I feel like there's something new to learn. And I'm a firm believer in JIT, which is just in time learning. So you don't need to have all the knowledge to get started with something, but you have to be able to figure it out along the way. And the only way to do that is to have that mindset where like, hey, if there's a problem, I'm gonna have to, go to somebody that knows how to solve it, or I'm gonna have to try to figure it out myself, or a combination of both. So marketing was a big piece where I just took on a lot of different, I went to like a marketing conference, I read books, I watched videos on YouTube and LinkedIn. Um, but yeah, to answer your question, you have to have a learning mindset.
Do you think that everyone's capable of having that growth and learning mindset?
It really depends. I mean, I think the politically correct answer is yes, but quite honestly, like if you're happy to do just a certain job, right, and not go outside of that, um, then no, right? So because you don't need 10 different skill sets to do a specific job. You just need to like specialize in that and you'll be fine. Um, so not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone wants to do that. Like some people like the stability, they like the comfort that having a steady, job that they're good at. Um, so, so no, I don't think it's meant for everyone.
Yeah, what someone once told me is that there's people who are meant to be employees and people who are meant to be entrepreneurs. And usually it's pretty hard to shift between the two. And a lot of the times entrepreneurs are also in real estate or more like 1099 contractors that have to work as they go.
Yeah, I think people can do both, but usually they'll gravitate towards one or the other. So
Mhm.
they might have a preference of one or the other, but they might do the other piece just for survival or just to like, build up a savings or just to buy time to do what they really want to do.
Yeah, most definitely building up your savings and buying that time is very crucial in society nowadays.
Yeah.
What are challenges you face working in the healthcare industry right now?
So I would come from a healthcare background. So to me, that was a challenge, just learning all the different moving pieces to it. And it's quite complicated and it's quite large. So, that's one thing where I started going to like health conferences and talking to different doctors. We started a podcast as well to like interview our members and just learn a little bit more about the different practices. Um, so, so yeah, I think like, you definitely gotta, there's so many different challenges. So you almost have to pick and choose which one you want to tackle like that day or that week and then just go after it. So that learning curve is there for the healthcare perspective. But then you have the business, obstacles that you also gotta, overcome. That can be anything from like financial to marketing to operations, to just like simple things like, oh, the vendor didn't show up and you have a box full of needles. Like, okay, what's the right way to handle that situation? Or somebody passes out in the lobby, right? So like all our employees, including me, were CPR certified, but that's something that we did because we were in, a clinical space. Like none of us really had that healthcare background before. It's a requirement now, but these types of challenges can come out of nowhere, and you just try to prepare yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, I think we all kind of learned that when COVID hit, that they literally can come out of nowhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does your company stay on top of these challenges and constant shifts in the healthcare industry?
So, I mean, I have a great team. So, I think it starts with the people around you. So, we have a great group of co-founders. I have three other co-founders, Anthony, Amit, and Greg, and they all have different skill sets, and so that really helps. And then we have, you know, fantastic employees as well. So when everyone's aligned with like a vision, that helps. But then also we have good advisors and mentors that we can go to because you're not gonna be able to predict or solve every problem yourself, especially as a small company, right? So being able to go to the right resources to solve things is is pretty critical.
How did you end up finding those mentors in this field?
For me, it's been LinkedIn. Like I've had really good luck with that. I have about 3,000 connections now, and I think if you approach it from like a learning perspective, like okay, you can help them, and you know, and you can learn from them, right? Versus like an ask, then it becomes easier. And there's a lot of people that do want to help budding entrepreneurs or budding students like yourself. I mean, people do want to get back. It's just they're not approached in the right way,
Mhm.
right? But I feel like, we've been very fortunate where we get a lot of feedback, whenever we want it. Like we can, call people and have them, give us great advice.
That's absolutely amazing. The older I get, the more I realize how valuable those connections are, especially mentors.
Yeah, and I'm twice your age, so I'm glad like you figured that out early on because I did not, and I struggled quite a bit, and I had a few business failures as well. So, I learned this now with all those failures in mind and with hindsight. But it's so, it's so incredible that you already get that now.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I really hated adults. Like when I was especially a teenager, I hated adults. But now that I'm a young adult, I'm like, I really like the older adults that are like in their 40s and 50s that have their life figured out, that
Yeah.
like they're past the college stage and stuff. Like those are the people I like more. And I
Yeah,
think it goes back to like you are the people you surround yourself with. And I'm like, I want to be like the entrepreneurs. I don't want to be like
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
people who are going to bars right now.
No, that's amazing. Like, I think every teenager is like you, right? Or they have that phase where they're just like, anybody above like the age of like 18 is like the enemy. But I think as you get older, you go back and you're like, apologize to your parents. You're like, oh, like I'm so sorry for all that stress. But I think it's a phase that every teenager goes through.
Most definitely. It's definitely a phase. It's in psychology. It's called stage five, I think. And one of Sigmund Freud's theories.
Mm.
Yeah, how do you define success though? I just ask everyone this at the end of my podcast. There's no wrong answers. I just love to hear everyone's thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I think from a business perspective, especially when you're starting out, success is really just defined by revenue. Like, are you making money to cover your bills and, are you profitable? Because if you're profitable, you can grow from that. If you're not, right, either you're not going to last or you're going to have to raise money to kind of cover that gap. Um, so, we were very cost conscious in the beginning and we still are simply because cash flow is really the lifeblood, right, of any business. So success in that perspective really is the revenue, um, and then keeping your expenses less than your revenue, right? So you have to be cash flow positive. From a personal perspective, it's are you doing the things that you want to do that make you happy, and are you surrounded by the people that you want to be surrounded with? I think whenever you're not true to yourself and you have to do things um, for the sake of society or the fact that you just have to do it, it could lead to discontent, it could lead to unhappiness, it could lead to depression, it could lead to a whole bunch of other things. But you know I have a great wife with kids, great dog. So like when I wake up I have a purpose, which I didn't really have before when I was in my 20s, right? So to me, being able to spend time with them, just to serve them, like that's what brings me happiness, and along with the business happiness of like growing and making things happen and having a positive outcome not only for the doctors but also for the patients. So that's to me is really important. That's how I define success. And if you can have all of that at once, great. But usually, you don't. Sometimes you have better health. Sometimes you have more money. Sometimes you have more time with your family and friends. Sometimes you're just spending time in your business. So it's really hard to get everything all at the same time, because you're never really in balance. But if you strive for that and you can get that, um, to me, I think that's like the perfect definition of success.
That's a really good definition. I think one of the highlighted points there for me is if your business isn't growing, then it's failing. I hear that all the time, and like revenue is so important in a business.
Yeah.
Also about the purpose part that you said, there's this book called Man's Search for Meaning, and in it, he talks about how you have to have a purpose in order to maintain hope in life. The book was written by a psychologist who experienced concentration camps in World War II, and he said that once people lost hope and lost their purpose, that's when they ended up passing away. So it was very, very interesting, but I like how you commented on that.
Yeah, hope is a very powerful thing. And hope from a business perspective, is it's good to be optimistic for sure, right? Because there's so many challenges that can happen. There's so many bad things that can happen in business. So you have to be optimistic. But you also have to be realistic in business. Like you got to see it for what it is. You can't hope that it's something that it's not, right? So just, going in with that mindset, like, yes, I'm going to strive for this moonshot and I'm going to do everything I can. But you also got to see what's the reality that day and that week and that month. And okay, can you do a little bit better than what you did the day before? Right? And can you incrementally improve over time and iterate and then have that continuous like flow of growth? Um, but yeah, that's a really good point that you brought up of hope.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm blinking. Oh, I was gonna say, I think nowadays, so many people my age, they have this mindset where it's like, I'm delusional. And it's okay to be delusional. I think in business, you need just enough delusion to make it work, but you also have to stay grounded in the realities of your situation.
Exactly.
Mhm. All right,
Yeah,
anything else
you
you
gotta be
have?
a little bit, crazy to start a business, right? You can't be
Mhm.
100% um normal, but but more than that, you have to definitely work hard and do all the other things to grow it.
Yeah, I find that same thing. People are like, "Oh, you're kind of weird for just like interviewing random CEOs." Like, I don't know. Like, why not? Why not see where it goes, you know?
Yeah, why not? Take a chance, right?
Anything else you have to tell anyone?
No, this was Metal. This was great. You can find MedCoShare at medcoshare.com. So we're a turnkey medical space based in Philadelphia, and we have 3 locations, growing nationwide, one state at a time. So yeah, if you're a doctor looking to start a private practice, please check us out.
And I'll link them down below, and I'll also link Ronak's LinkedIn down below.
Awesome. Thanks, Natty.
All right, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. That was the Breakout Podcast with Ronak, owner of MedCoShare. I will link all of his links down below and his company's website. So if you want to go check that out. All right. Bye, y'all.